Hello, I'm Shiley. I had to contemplate this assignment a little bit and really kind of decide if I was going to narrow down to one specific event or kind of try and encapsulate a couple of different events that have happened in a short period of time that have kind of fed off of each other to kind of get me where I'm at. So I'll just kind of back up. 4 years ago, personally, I was married. I ended up getting divorced. I had 3 kids at the time. I was a stay-at-home mom, so I went from being married, 3 kids, staying at home, completely reliant upon my husband for everything, to, single mom, going back to aesthetic school at the time. 3 little kids. I had gotten into a new relationship and it ended up getting pregnant. So eventually, I went through school pregnant. I figured everything out. There was a bunch of warning signs during that time. Spiritual nudges, as we would call it now, after taking this class, telling me that something was very, very wrong. But me being kind of empathic and knowing people's stories, I just ignored everything. I had no idea what personal boundaries were. I basically just laid down and tried to, keep a family together. I had the baby, ended up moving in with the guy, and I remember specifically before we were supposed to sign papers, that night I just had the most crushing revelation coming to me, saying, this is going to destroy you and us if you move into this house together. This isn't right. And I was trying to explain this to him, but he was really good at getting me to do what he wanted and ignoring my intuition. So I went against it and I signed papers. We ended up moving into the house, and it was just downhill from there. I mean, it ended up being a very psychologically, emotionally, kind of abusive situation for me. I remember a specific time I was actually taking a shower and I felt something hit my neck and it hurt. It was a cockroach. There was no cockroaches in this house that we were living in. But a freaking cockroach hit my neck. And it was the worst feeling in the world. Not just gross because it was a cockroach, but that was a literal, divine sign. I don't know how else to describe it. I can't tell it to you, but it's just this wasn't right. Even this house that we were in as well, had these weird writings on the mirror whenever somebody would shower, and no matter what I would do, I couldn't get it off. It was just dark. And even my mom was a paramedic and she serviced that area we lived in. We lived on Jesse Lane, and the saying at the firehouse at that time was, nothing good happens on Jesse Lane. Needless to say, bad situations just kept happening. I ended up moving out within 9-10 months. So yeah, that whole living situation was really, really intense. And I really had to learn how to kind of go out on my own and start really making decisions for myself. And I really, through all of that was the catalyst. I mean, much more happened after that, but it's that specific event, moving into that house and experiencing just intense darkness. I don't know what else to describe, and consistently ignoring those spiritual nudges and my intuition about what to do, about, I don't know how many times I left and I would go back, left and go back, and I knew I needed to just leave permanently, but I still kept just writing it off as me being crazy and paranoid. I think back to the first time I moved out, for a week. If I would have actually just stayed out, or if I would have just listened to my intuition and not signed papers to that house, how much heartbreak wouldn't have followed into my life. Granted, it taught me so many imperative life lessons and forced me to kind of delve into my own things, but sometimes I look back at that version of myself and said, oh, sweetheart, if only you would have just known and felt safe. But if I, it's hard for me to say, oh, if I would have just not signed the papers, because, I mean, where I'm at now, I'm not where I want to be, but I don't think I would have had as much wisdom now, especially even raising my kids, if I hadn't have been through the last couple years, especially through that house on Jesse Lane. But bottom line, I really appreciate the experience, because now I'm finally coming into my own and really appreciating knowing spirit and those spiritual nudges, and not to just write them off and we're not crazy and it's not too woo-woo. I'm actually being able to come into my full self and not feel ashamed of it at all or guilty, and just feeling strong and empowered to be able to speak about that divinity within each of us, that spark that lets us know, that we do have divine within us, and we can go off of just that intuition, even if we don't have some scientific backing for why we're making the decision, or even, good reasoning surrounding that intuition. Sometimes that intuition is just that perfect nudge, and you just need to go after it, even if there's no other reasoning surrounding it. But getting through that event, it was really just me speaking to God most of the time, and reading my Bible, closing my eyes, picking a Bible verse for the day. If I was drawn to a certain book or a reading, I would, I'd read the articles, I'd go into a bookstore, and if I was drawn to a certain area, I would learn to start following that and take the book and read it, or, just things like that. That's kind of how I got through it. It was just being in contact with God when I allowed God to be in my life at that time. But yeah, I mean, and the outcomes now, I'm on a good road now. It's taken a couple years, but it's coming into its own, and I'm really excited to kind of see what 2020 brings now. I feel like kind of all the hard stuff, the fruit from it is finally being born the past couple months. So I'm really excited about that. Hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their week.